Resume recording, and then I'm sharing again, because otherwise we won't have a recorded meeting. So hang on. As we always say, have to learn how to do this stuff. I'm still not a total veteran of this. So welcome at 7:06 and call to order. So I'm calling the meeting to order. My name is Laura Myers. I am the chair of the UNNC Planning and Zoning Committee. I live in Angeles Vista, and I am also currently, with a deep sigh, the president of United Neighborhoods Neighborhood Council. And if everyone can introduce themselves. Go ahead, whoever. Audrey, you want to go next?
My name is Audrey Arlington, and I'm a resident of Jefferson Park.
John.
Hi, I'm John Arnold. I am co-host. I am at-large representative of UNNC for 13 years now, and I am a multifamily housing architect.
And Carlos, are you giving us a tour of New Orleans?
Maybe next time.
Okay, first, Carlos, let's teach Laura how to say it.
I'm not even from New Orleans myself, so.
Okay. Anyway, can you introduce yourself?
It's New Orleans. New Orleans.
There you go. So this is Carlos Carrick, at-large representative UNNC as well, West Adams.
Yeah, I'm just seeing flashing photos. 4th Street, Lucero Beauty Shop. That is you, right? I don't know why I'm. Or wait a minute, maybe I'm not seeing that. Maybe I'm seeing that on my own computer.
I think that's you, Laura.
Got it. Okay. Weird. I have multiple screens going apparently. Okay, so and I need the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
And a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And aye. Okay, the agenda is approved. Public comments is the next item. These would be one or 2 minutes per speaker, but more importantly, on any item not on the agenda. Is anybody have a public comment?
I'm just going to say, Audrey, you were at HPOZ last night, Audrey?
For some of it, yeah, I was toggling between that and the District Square Area Planning Commission meeting.
Oh.
So I am eager. I got an email from Jean Frost today. I am eager since the neighborhoods have no purview over ever seeing what ADUs get approved, I'm curious and eager to see what is getting approved, and not to butt in or vote or dress down any planning department. But I think we don't have any idea what they're approving, that would be
why I asked Max Loder in the Jefferson Park HPOZ, when he recounts to you all, what he's approved. That's why I'm always there to record the ADUs that he's been approving, because I too am interested in that. It would be really nice if the HPOZ board members were to ask him to provide that in writing. That's just a short little list of the projects he's approved at the staff level, which will include ADUs, of course. That would be ever so swell if he'd provide that to you as part of the package of the agenda.
Okay, so we're going a little beyond public comment, but you know what, I don't care. I will say that as of 2 meetings ago, the planner for University Park has agreed to add that to the agenda, sorta, and is sharing the plans. My broader concern, and John, I don't know, maybe we really should make this an agenda item. The thing is that the city attorney and the planning department, but I would say the city attorney, drafted the updated ordinance late last year to comply with state law, the new state laws on ADUs, and sort of halfway through in one sentence added the concept that that in a historic district or similar, a specific plan, he added the concept of objective versus subjective standards. And John, I'm not at all sure if the state's ADU laws have that phrase. That was part of SB 330, correct? But was it?
I can't keep the numbers straight, but I can't
No,
remember.
SB 330 definitely had the objective versus subjective standards.
I don't think that's, I think ADUs have to meet the objectives. No, I think ADUs meet objective and subjective because they have to, and it's not, but it's the plain.
Well, I'm asking I'm asking the state law. I mean, what I'm asking, I guess, is if your guy or gal, whoever it is at your company is tracking all this stuff, could check the state law, because the point here is it was added, the language was added to the ordinance that was adopted by City Council in December without a whole lot of discussion and maybe not understanding the intent. And it was months later that the city attorney issued what is still private, none of us have ever seen it, the memorandum that apparently says all preservation plans are subjective and they are not objective, which of course is not, I mean, we've had this discussion in the HPOZ setting of, no, one would think that you'd have to look at each preservation plan line by line and determine by HPOZ what are the current objective standards, and understand that we can't add any other objective standards for any effective purpose until 2025. But
I think ADUs are subject to subjective standards.
yes,
ADUs can't just be a 2,000 square feet maxed out to get. It's a different rule. They're separate.
this is that I'm saying this is a confusion. This is why they're being treated as ministerial, because essentially the ordinance now says, the ordinance says not subjective, can't do subjective, only objective, which I think, I'm being cynical and I know I'm being recorded, but I don't care. I believe the city attorney shoved that piece of language in under the radar and then a few months later issued his or her, whichever city attorney it was, this opinion that preservation plans are subjective. I think it was a gotcha, in other words.
Laura, the webinar that OHR just did on
Right,
this
I
whole
attended.
subject, can I finish? Basically went through and provided examples of, this is language in a preservation plan that is subjective and this is objective. And they went through a whole thing that showed the difference between the two. So I don't know how anyone could conclude that they just across the board think that all preservation plans and the language they're in is subjective. I don't think that that's what OHR is operating under. Although
Well, we don't
there's
really
plenty
know.
in the preservation plans that have now been dismissed, but they've also provided a lot of examples of language in there where it is they consider objective.
Correct. I'm saying they did at these webinar. I attended 2 of these HPOC webinars. So there was one 2 months earlier where the same idea was discussed. And then at the one you were at, where we were specifically talking about it, John Kaliski asked the question, can't we go through all of the different preservation plans one by one and just determine where they're subjective and where they're not? You may recall Ken Bernstein responded by saying, oh, what a good idea. It's just that it had been suggested 2 months earlier. So I'm becoming quite cynical about this. And they've thus far, multiple people have asked for a copy of the opinion from the city attorney, and so far that it's not been provided. So I'm concerned about that. There's been some things approved in other HPOZs, not UNNC, but in east of us, that are really outlandish. and unnecessary, because what I understand is that the law says you cannot impose standards that would change the square footage or, those things. But they've approved, for example, substituting out the original barn doors and putting windows in different places on the barn door side instead of using the windows in the barn doors or for the space. So anyway, so John, do you think we should be having an actual agenda item on this?
Yeah, let's do this. We requested at Jefferson Park last night that Max present to us a sampling of things he's approved, because there's like two or three a month?
At least, but you could also, the board could also ask him to provide you the addresses and the type of project it is that he's approved every month in writing.
And that way we can put it on the agenda and have it logged in.
Right, but that's one HPOZ. FYI, tonight there's suddenly a series of emails because somebody sent out an email to a bunch of different people at different HPOZs. And David was copied on some of these emails. I haven't read them. I just saw.
Jean did it.
Right. So she sent it out, and a bunch of different people are responding from different HPOZs. So
yeah, I responded. Anyway,
I haven't read the answers. They weren't emailed to me. I was looking at glancing at David's email, not reading because it's not my email. But I'm thinking that a UNNC agenda item, because our purpose is community participation and transparency, and I think that's not a different purpose from one HPOZ or another, but I think it's a larger voice. UNNC has 1, 2, Jesus, I'm losing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do we have 4 HPOZs and 2 character residential overlays, or do we have 5 HPOZs? But we have a lot within our boundaries.
1,
So
2,
West Adams Terrace, Jefferson Park, Western Heights, Harvard Heights. Am I missing any?
I think that's it. Lafayette? Is that
It's not within our footprint.
oh my God, what was I gonna say? Go ahead, keep going.
No, I'm just thinking, I mean, we can discuss offline, but I think we could have an agenda item. I don't know if it's an emergency or not. We can't make any decisions
I don't think
tonight.
it is. We haven't seen anything egregious built in ADUs in Jefferson Park.
Mhm.
University Park has so many zones and development patterns,
Mhm.
and big houses and small houses and weird lots and odd lots. Jefferson Park is really regular compared to that. So they're seeing anomalies where what's front, what's side, what's rear, what's old, what's new is in dispute. So things are popping up that it's arguable whether they fit or not. Whereas we're mostly front house, back house. And so even if something is approved that isn't quite awesome, we probably won't see it because it's in the back. But that said, it would be nice to see what is being approved, and maybe, I'm not sure, because a lot of things were just approved and takes a year to get built, what they're going to look like when they start popping their heads up. I don't know.
Right. Well, I think there's a larger point, which is, are these truly 100% ministerial and not subject to any preservation plan guidelines? I mean, I think there's a bigger question. And similarly, and we're still in public comments, there's a spate, meaning at least 4 phone calls I've received this week on 4 unrelated but quite similar situations in the quote public realm. So there's one project in Jefferson Park, John, you may have been looped in, on Colleen Street.
Yes, I know all about
Right.
it.
Well, you don't know everything. Rena woke up last week one morning having no notice whatsoever, with her car still in the driveway, we might add, where the city came out and demolished her driveway apron and constructed a driveway apron over the next several days. Well, luckily she didn't need to drive anywhere because her car was in the driveway. That is 3 or 4 feet into her parkway, and it's completely out of line with any historic character. Her driveway's not wider. I mean, it doesn't do anything for her. It's just now the apron is widened into the parkway for no good reason at all. Roland woke up on Monday to a crew digging a giant hole in his parkway to install a new street light that's also a cell tower, and they tore out all of the native garden plants and threw them away. And he hadn't gotten notice. And there's now markings at right here, kitty corner from David at 25th and 4th Avenue for a new underground something facility for wires. And what's happening is all of a sudden the HPOZ unit is right and left just approving these as exempt. But if you read the preservation plan, so the Jefferson Park preservation plan says it, the West Adams Terrace preservation plan says it, and I see Steve Wallace is on this call. He knows what I'm talking about, but I don't know if he read his preservation plan. But it literally says, because remember, this is a darn template. It's always a mistake to have a template because we can find stuff, that a Department of Public Works Improvement could be exempt, but only when the director finds that the Certified Historic Resources Survey for the preservation of the zone does not identify any contributing elements located within the right-of-way or where the right-of-way is not specifically addressed in the preservation plan. So we're already at a place where all these preservation plans absolutely have a public realm section with public right-of-way discussions, sidewalks, curbs, parkways. And where the Department of Public Works has completed a CEQA review of the proposed improvement, and the review itself has determined that the work is exempt from CEQA, and the HPOZ board shall, and there's that word shall, it's actually here, be notified of such projects, given a project description and an opportunity to comment. So Colleen called today and emailed to say that that project kind of started again, and she wasn't aware of the director's finding yet, a proper CEQA finding yet, or did you ever have an agenda item at Jefferson Park where you commented?
We did.
Well, no, you didn't have a action item where you could write a comment. You had a consultation.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you would not. If you had wanted to comment, you couldn't have commented because of the way Max agendized it. So that's another thing that may need to be addressed in a more broad.
So I would say the synopsis of all this, as we move on to our agenda, is that delegated and or items that aren't subject to public comment need to be addressed.
Well, yeah, well, what needs to be addressed is, in the middle of a pandemic, essentially, staff wants to work efficiently, obviously, as best they can, and the community wants to be engaged as best it can, or as people can. And we're also talking about a time period where one of the most important things the planning department language they're using right now is about essentially racial justice. So one question I'd have is, are they being so flagrantly not consulting with the community in the wealthier HPOZ areas, or is this across the board? And I don't know the answer, but it just kind of feels not so good, and so on and so forth. But it's just interesting. There's 4 separate situations within a 7-day period, and the project that's at 25th and 4th and on Westmoreland and Harvard Heights turns out to be entitled University. It's a Verizon project, and the whole bigger project's University, which makes me wonder, how big is this project and how many locations are there? And would that number of locations truly be exempt from CEQA if they're making these changes? And I don't know the answer. Okay, but that's another ponder for a future agenda. We have other members of the audience. Are there any other public comments?
That was a nice 20-minute public comment.
I'm sorry, I know, but the next thing is kind of fun. Okay, are we done with public? We're done with public comment. So the next item on the agenda, we were asked, I was asked at some recent community meeting, Zoom meeting, but it wasn't this meeting, if we could do, and of course the person who actually asked isn't here, could we do a training on, quote, training on ZMIS? But and it was like, oh, well, that's not going to be so useful. But at the last week's Plan Check LA, the planning department introduced a new aspect of the planning department website that actually is very cool and allows anybody to rather easily track new development proposals and see the plans and see everything. So it's a step up. So what's been happening again this year is that the plans that developers or applicants turn into the planning department are now being immediately scanned and put up online. So that's why it's been a little bit easy to just go out and grab stuff and show and tell it. But this is a whole new system. So I'm gonna, hopefully this is gonna work. I'm gonna share the screen and share the planning department website. So can you guys see that? It's now doing a flash. Is it a big black blob for you, or is it visible?
Black blob. Oh, visible.
John, is it visible for you?
It is.
Okay. So this is the planning department homepage, planning.lacity.org. So what they're showed us is, now if you click on resources, you can go to case reports. And on this page, first thing is you can, somewhere, you can right here, I'll click on it, sign up to start receiving, I mean, this is not new. You can sign up to receive case filings for all kinds of things. So it's a planning, this is what all neighborhood council members should be getting, the bi-weekly city planning case filing. But if you look, there's all kinds of other things you can subscribe to. And I think I want to subscribe to Million Trees because I'm just curious as to what that even is. But so that's one thing. But going back to where we were, what's new is, if I can get, I'm trying to scroll down to it, is on the bi-weekly entitlement case filings. You click on this thing, bi-weekly. You have to agree to the terms, and a map is popping up. But well, first I'll say, if you look on the left, this just started. I mean, they don't have it back before July 19th. So right now it goes through November 7. And if you only want to see the more recent ones, you can turn off these other ones by just scrolling. I don't know what that's called, turning on and turning off. And then just to see our own area, you just keep hitting plus, and we can get to ours. So this is the one you did last night at Jefferson Park, correct? DIR 2020 at 2925. So what I did to pull that, I'm going to exit. What I did is I saw a little thing that looked like it was in our neighborhood, and I clicked on it, and it brings up 2925 Western, and then it has the case number, and it takes us to the page. Now, I don't know what you guys did last night, but what you're seeing is that there's 0 approved documents because there's this tab. So it lists the case number, here's the address. It describes on this page, broadly speaking, what this is and who is the applicant. But what's important is if you see where my cursor is going, initial submittal documents, it now has, I'm going to see how I can do this. It now has the plan, you know, it has the application and environmental assessment findings and the plan. So anybody now can just easily do this from home. It's going to take a little while, I think, to share. So I'm going to open it in Firefox. So you can download it or open it. Let's see what happens. Is it opening? Okay. For me, it's probably opening somewhere else. And I don't know where it's opening. So I apologize for that. I don't know where it is opening. But you can see how to do it. Should I go find out where it is, or do you guys need me to find it?
No, I think it's just knowing that this resource is.
I'm sorry. Oh, there it is. It's open. So this is, I mean, in other words, these are large files. They'll take a while, obviously, and we don't need to go through this case. Obviously, this is what you saw last night, correct?
Yes, it is.
Pretty darn close.
This is very handy to be able to just, even when you're just sitting at home wondering what's going on, to have everything at your fingertips. We've never had this before.
Yeah,
I'm sorry that there are not 60 people in this meeting.
We are
fantastic to see this. Thank you.
It's brand new. It just
started
up just like a week or two ago.
Where is everybody?
I don't know.
They should be watching this.
That's true. So I'm trying to see what is this one. So this is, Steve, I think this is not Harvard, is right across the street from Harvard Heights, if Steve's still here. But so again, this one looks like it has been finaled, and because I see a determination letter. And I think what it is, CUB, this one would be, oops, a alcohol one. And yeah, so it's a smart and final on Pico, and they probably just needed to extend their alcohol. But I find this just so cool that we now can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
This is really fantastic.
Yep.
Right.
And done without fanfare. This is like a
Exactly.
major achievement.
If I had not shown up to Plan Check LA on Saturday, I would not have known this. I mean, I already knew that we had been asked to do a training on ZMIS, but this is kind of like better than ZMIS. Yeah. It's different than ZMIS. It's
different than ZMIS. It just shows graphically everything that's current, and so you can easily just log in and see what's going on.
Right. I mean, obviously, ZMIS has what am I trying to say?
It's wonkier.
But there's other things at ZMIS, so I am going to move on to see if I can find ZMIS in this without closing everything. Let's see. Oh, look at that. I was denied. Okay. So to get to ZMIS, it would be www.zimas.planning. No, .lacity.org, I think. lacity.org. Let's see if that's right. Yeah, so I use ZMIS all day long, every day.
Me too.
And so when you log in, you have to accept whatever, and you can look for a property or a street intersection. So for a street intersection, I don't know, I'm going to do Adams, and I'm going to do Western for no particular reason other than it's what came to my mind. And so you end up here on the map. So a couple of things, you can make this big, scroll in and you see footprints. You scroll out, meaning making the map larger, and you can see this. I wonder what that red mark is.
That's a bunch of oil wells.
Isn't that this one?
Oh, you're right.
I mean, I truly don't know.
Doesn't matter. Let's move on.
Right, I'm just saying. So, but what you need to do to find, if you're looking for a particular property, and I don't know necessarily that I am looking for a particular property, but now I am because I want to know what the hell that is.
So, Laura, if I can interrupt you for one
Sure.
second. So these tools up here, they're not totally easy to follow, but this one arrow with the star on it, that's identify a property.
Right.
And then that's the one that lets you highlight a property like
I just did.
Like Bar just did.
Right.
The other ones are, yeah.
And it's sometimes stubborn. But there you go. So sometimes you have to do it twice or 3 times. Okay, so what are these other ones, John? This is
so click on that one I never used. Click that one.
oh, map navigation tools.
Those are just to expand the map and to zoom in and palm it around and things like that. The one the drafting tool one, that's if you want to measure something. But
Really?
Yeah, you have to zoom in. It's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty good.
Okay, what would we want to measure?
So I would zoom into something that's a little bit, so you're too far out to get any accuracy. So go to the second tool in.
This one?
Yeah, zoom in, there you go. And go down and hit it
Okay,
again.
so here's the oil field. That's the apartment building.
So hit the green, zoom in, just zoom in somewhere. Just keep zooming until you get something that you get some accuracy.
It doesn't want to zoom.
You hit it, now you draw a box. How you want to zoom in? Now draw a box.
Oh.
Just
Okay.
click drag.
Okay.
Okay, it didn't do it. There you go. So do that again. Click drag. Let's zoom right
Okay,
in.
I'm sorry. See, now I'm learning. What was I clicking on first before I was dragging?
You're in expanding. So you see the green down at the lower left, you see the green.
Yeah.
Okay, now if you click drag a box, it will zoom into that box. Click.
Yeah, I'm looking at the mansion for no good reason.
Yeah, so now we're a little, so let's just, okay, now go back up to the drafting tools. Now you're too far.
I know. I see.
Yeah, there you go. So if you want to say, now let's go to the hand tool, which is down at the lower left. Click the hand tool. Click, there you go. Now drag, so let's measure the setback for this house. Drag it downwards.
Oh, you want the front setback?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, we're in teaching mode here.
So now go back up to the draft.
I'm going to zoom out again because we're a little close.
Okay, that's good. So now go back up to the drafting tools,
Mm-hmm.
which is right there. Yeah, click that.
Right?
Now go down, hold on. Go down and hit the tool that has the green zigzag line. It's already green, that's good. So click, hold on a point where you, as close as you can that you want to measure.
Like, you mean on the app?
Yep, right there, click, hold, drag down to the house.
No.
No,
I know. It says click to start drawing.
Yep.
That it's not drawing.
So click release on a point. Oh, there you go. And when you find a point where you want to release it, that's the measurement. So if you want to, so I think you click again. I could do it. I have muscle memory for this. So that is 88.
Oh, look.
That is 88.542 feet. What you just drew.
Right. So it's on the lower left. The length is 80. Oh my God.
And
Excellent.
it's pretty accurate. I mean, if you zoom in, I found that you can get with within inches.
Okay. Well, it says 88 feet, 0.542 whatevers.
So this is if you want to check something. I use it all the time to check the dimensions of a lot, to see what the prevailing setbacks are. I use it all the time. Or if I want to see what the, a highway dedication, or just to confirm something, I use it all the time. So now I think the more important one is to highlight a lot. So if you go up to the third tool, which is the point with the star, that is select a lot.
Right.
So you can also select multiple lots by, I think it's holding down shift.
Oh.
You can drag. So what you do is go to the second, go down the lower left, see that zigzag tool in this tool?
This one again?
Yep.
Select by line?
Yep. You could drag a line across multiple lots, and that way you can see. So say a project has 4 lots, and you want to see what the total area is on those, or what it equals.
Yeah.
And you click drag, and you drag across all the lots.
Yeah, I'm not so good at this click drag thing.
Yeah.
But
Maybe
although,
it's click, release, drag, click.
right. Well, I would say,
I should be the one on this showing it.
accidentally doing this, I'm a little perplexed as to why the frontage on the Durfee mansion is zoned commercial.
Oh,
That's the Durfee mansion on what, I mean, no, by coincidence. And it's like, what the, why is this one single parcel now 2 parcels with a commercial frontage? One wonders. Don't know the answer.
anyway.
I have a silly question.
Sure.
I'm looking at let's say the lower left side of the map.
Yeah.
There you go. In the I guess it looks to me like it's orange.
Yes.
Yep.
So I see it looks like it's one lot, but it's divided. Right? Where it says in the orange, or R4 or 1-0 HPZ.
So what that is, Carlos, is that originally that was a residential street, likely. Someone bought all those lots, tore everything down, but the lots are still underneath there, but they've been joined. So they don't ever really get rid of joined lots. They usually just have the original plat, and then they have this little zigzag line that shows that the lots have been joined. So that's one legal lot now. I think if Laura highlighted it, it would show as one legal lot, but it's, or it probably
so are
won't.
we talking about, like, for example?
Yes, that was right there.
So if I do this, I'm going to click on this, just so I'm parsing.
It still shows as one parcel.
But here's why I'm doing it, because we're doing now something else that John probably doesn't do too often. I'm pulling up the assessor map. Well, it's wanting to ask me whether or not it should open. So this is what John's talking about. So this is what we were just at. You see these little lines across the lines? That's the lot joins. This lot joining.
Okay.
So
I have a question here about this link to the assessor map. Do you happen to know if this will also link to that place on the assessor's website where you can ask who owns the property? Because
I know that it does not for us as mere mortals.
You have to go straight through the assessor's
We
website
do.
itself.
Yes,
Okay.
city staff has a slightly different in-house version, so they can get straight to it.
No, but at least you can ask as a member of the public. I just wondered if it was connected to Zymus, but apparently not.
No, this one's not. But what I'm saying is, if Lambert Giesinger was looking up something on Zymus and he wanted to know who the owner was, his click would take him there, because the in-house system is slightly different. So so this was here, and then there's also, so where you see address legal, it has the address, it has the zip code, it has a PIN number. I've never quite known why we need it. The PIN number has the parcel square footage. Now that's sort of meaningless, because remember, that's only this one little thing.
But you can select all those lots, and I think it will give you the entire thing, but go ahead.
Yes, but then if you click on assessor, this other tab, and by now, because of the select parcels, this window has come up, but you get rid of that. And Nope, it doesn't do it. Oh, yes, it does. So here on the assessor tab, now it tells us it's 1.9 acres. It's almost 2 acres. So
What is this line that says ownership, Bureau of Engineering, land records, and ownership assessor? It looks like a link to ownership there. Do you see
yeah,
on
but
the
you
left?
see, that it's locked.
Oh,
That's what I'm trying to say. It's locked.
information that you can't have. Okay.
From what that you, mere mortal citizen of Los Angeles, cannot have.
Never mind.
But
But
what I'm saying
that
is
1.96 acres is
would
that
be
entire joined lot.
exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. So there's different ways to figure these different things out. And there's going to be errors. I mean, this is a pretty darn good system. So this is what's on assessor, and also it should be showing us, but it doesn't, the year of construction, but for whatever reason, it's not showing us that here. So this is a bad example.
It's probably, yeah, you're right. Go to
Well, I can,
yeah, you're right. It's not showing that. It usually does.
no, I know. So I'll just go to this
Go
one.
to something simpler.
Yes, I'm just going to this one. So this one over here on 24th Street was built in 1896.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the couple of very cool, I mean, this was like 1, 2, 3, owned by another religious organization for a long time.
That was the backside of Berkeley Square, wasn't it?
Well, no, well, I don't know, but here's what we do. We go to planning and zoning, and there's all these special notes, but here's the one that's good for answering a question. Historic preservation review. Yes, we click on it. It's a designated historic resource. Yes, we want to click on Zenas. That's the house.
We're about 3 seconds behind.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So do I
Audrey,
need?
this works for all of our Jefferson Park PCIS. If you go to that, if you click on Zema, when you hit the historic preservation, yes,
Mm-hmm.
and then you come up and it says Zemas, and you hit this, and you get the PCIS sheet.
Right. So when this comes up, historic preservation, so we're getting the West Adams Terrace HPOZ, but we also want to look, in this case, the answer is no. Is there any other historic designation? Does it have a Mills Act contract? So there's 3 places to click there. I'm going back to the historic preservation overlay zone. So here's on the left, it's got the HPOZ information, including the preservation plan, which I'm not going to bring up tonight, but you can. If you want to get a better idea of a bigger look at the photo, you do a right click and hit view image, and you get a slightly better. But with Google Street Maps, you can get an even better view. So yes, this certainly looks like 1896, doesn't it? Makes me wonder more about its history. No, we got booted.
Did that just pop up when you clicked on yes? Because when I have clicked on yes before, trying to get the survey information for properties, I never get it.
Yeah, you have to click on the Zema. You get a sheet, and then you get Zemas. Laura, can you go back to the?
I'm re-logging in. Sorry, sorry, I got booted. I don't know why. So here I am again. And where do you want me to go back to?
Go to a historic property.
So planning and zoning. Oh, I have to click.
You have to zoom in.
Yeah.
No, I have to click on
There you
something.
go.
There you go.
Okay. Now I'm planning and zoning. So you want me to go back to yes?
Go up to the selection tool to select the property. There you go.
Yeah,
And yes. Hit yes, and then wait for 5 seconds so your computer can catch up. So hit yes.
I did.
Okay, we're slow. Okay. So Steve, see where it says Zemas in blue?
Yeah.
Hit Zemas in blue.
Huh. Yeah, that's brilliant. Must have
It
been
took me
operating-
forever, Steve, to get that. I was like, where the fuck is the PCIS sheet? And I thought,
Yeah.
it was David Saffer who finally said, oh, you just hit Zemus. I'm like, God damn.
Right. So
Sorry for my now recorded French.
I there's some recorded French for me too. Sorry, but yeah, that I guess it is what it is. And so obviously, if it wasn't 1896, if it was 1906, we would potentially have the architect, potentially have the builder, almost certainly have the name of the person for whom the house was built, because the building permit would have been available when this survey was done. But the city only has, at this moment in time, only has records from 1905 forward on building permits. They've in my time here in West Adams, they managed to lose 1902, 3, and 4, because in the early 80s, a friend of mine who was a librarian, Joyce Albers, and I got permission from Building and Safety to go sit in the bowels of City Hall where they used to be and go through the microfilm for those 3 years. So I've got permit information on some properties from 02, 03, 04. I fear that we were the last ones to ever see that microfilm. I think it got thrown away after that because they don't have it anymore. And I don't mean that we stole it, because we did not. Anyway, so the other interesting thing, so we're not going to click on it, but as you can see, they've got Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, an information link on Mills Act, and then Historic Places LA, a real difficult thing to attempt to navigate. And I'm letting someone else into our Zoom meeting, by the way. So this is the Survey LA, and it's really very difficult to navigate. I would normally start with clicking on the search button. And does anybody remember what the address is where we were? I'll just like it's 2032. So I would have tried to do 2032, and I would not try to do 2032 24th Street, because sometimes it doesn't come up. But in this case, it does. And I'm now going slow, right? Have you caught up to me where it says 2032 West 24th?
Yes.
So I'm going to
Yes.
click on that. And I have to click again. And it brings up a different version of what we were already looking at. And so I'm saying it's so difficult to navigate, and it's sort of like, yeah, where's the information, right? And there is nothing. And so this bothers me, because this Survey LA, they've had some years to perfect it, and it's like, why? So anyway, but back on Zemus, if I I'm closing the historic preservation window again. And I know I'm going slow, but John, what I'm doing is I'm clicking on Historic Preservation Review, yes, again. And has that brought up the same on your guys' computer, continue to Zemus, or go to historicplacesla.org?
Give it 2 more seconds.
Sure.
There you go.
Right, so instead of clicking on Zemus, we could have clicked on Historic Places, but that's what I did the other way. And it frustrates me because it's very, very, very hard to search Historic Places LA. You have to already know what you're looking for, but if you already know what you are looking for, you might not need to be looking for it. It's a sort of catch-22. All right, so back to Zemus. I'm closing the historic preservation, and there's other things. What other things do we want to look at?
What else do I use quite a bit? You know, all the zoning information. If you click down to case numbers,
Okay,
this is where it gets
yeah, that's
really
good.
wonky.
That's good. So let me, because it's just so messy, I'm closing the planning and zoning and opening case numbers. So that is actually really good. So when you click on case numbers, it's eventually going to get us back to that page that we were looking at for current cases, that other page that we have discovered. But there's no recent cases on this property. I do not know what a MSC is. Do you, John?
I don't.
Or a CA? I'm just going to arbitrarily click on CPC 2010-2399 MSC and see what we see.
It's probably gonna be an error. There you go. Maybe not.
It is an error because it's for 1715 Roosevelt.
Yeah. So this is all these case numbers. It's like wading into the darkness to see what you find. Sometimes you strike gold and sometimes you don't. Like if you're looking for a Q condition or a D condition, you have to just go through all these case numbers until you find what you're looking for. And then even then you don't know if it's exactly pay dirt, because if a Q condition could be several case numbers.
Right.
And so
Okay,
that's
so it
when I
turns out
say,
this is not an error because now that I scroll down, you see how it says adoption of preservation plans for various existing HPOZs. And I'm thinking the only error is that only one address was found. It should have been like 1,000 addresses. Because this would be the adoption of the West Adams Terrace. No, in 2010. Yeah, it was probably the adoption of the West Adams Terrace Preservation Plan and the Harvard Heights Preservation Plan, because 1715 Roosevelt is obviously in Harvard Heights. But
What is under view all addresses? Do you see
Well,
that under Roosevelt?
yeah.
What-
in this case, yeah, there was no other address. That's the thing. So sometimes a
Okay.
property, especially a multifamily property or commercial frontage, has 7 or 8 addresses. So it'll just list all the addresses. And there's a reason.
Maybe they just, as a practical matter, maybe they just had to stick one address in there.
Yeah, on this one, it's clearly an error. That's what I'm trying to say. But I'm trying, if we go to, I'm going to take us to another property. This is the hospital property that's under renovation or finished recently, right? So it's the former doctor's hospital on the corner of 24th and Western that's been now rehabbed into housing. So if my little spinning thing stops spinning, this is going to have a much more recent case. So essentially, you'll see, so this again is the hospital the former hospital that's now adaptive reuse. And I'm going to click on the case that's am I doing that? I'm going to click on the case at ZA2016 ZAD CUB, just because I think that's the one where they got permission to do this adaptive reuse, maybe. And so this is clearly a far more complicated case. I'm going to try and make my screen, I'm having a little trouble here. I'm going to try and make my screen a little smaller so more of it shows. Can you guys still read it if I make it that small?
yeah.
Okay. So, so you see there's just a whole lot of determination letters and, one day after City Hall closed this year, a new determination letter. I don't know what that was about, but to Audrey's question where it says view all addresses, you see now it has a whole bunch of addresses. Is that up on your screen yet?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all the same property. It's just the alternative addresses. And one of the reasons they now do that is related to the former McKinley mansion at 3rd Street and Virgil, that area, many years ago. Whatever developer owned it wanted to get a demolition permit, and it was a designated historic property, and he was turned down. But he basically went out to the valley and just started trying all of the legal alternative addresses until one stuck. And he got a demolition permit and started demolishing this house with a permit, but it was because Building and Safety did not have the list of all addresses. So the city has made a big effort now to track all addresses with one property, so that doesn't happen, or at least doesn't happen as cruelly and blatantly as that one example. So that's that. What else should we look at on ZMIS? I'm back to the ZMIS page, John.
Yeah, I guess the short and long of it is that there's just a lot of information here. You just have to have purpose to know what you're looking for. Everything else down below is all really esoteric stuff.
Yeah.
And I use additional quite often just to look for things like oil zone or methane zone or fire hazard zone. All those are additional.
Right. So I just pulled that one up. And again, just tell me when it's up.
It's up.
Okay. So it's not in a flood zone. Unlike you guys in Jefferson Park, you are in a flood zone.
So a lot of this stuff.
No. We're in a liquefaction zone.
No. You're also, strangely enough, they've remapped the flood zones, Audrey, and you are in the Hansen Dam. I know. The Hansen Dam, if there's a major emergency flood zone, because the water would go down the LA River, but potentially overflow that and follow the banks.
No.
The old LA River.
No.
That's what the map says. I don't.
Never gonna happen. Never gonna. So Audrey, liquefaction's under seismic hazards.
Right.
Okay, hang on.
The only ones. A lot of these only pertain to costs of development. They don't really rezoning things. So like methane zone won't stop anything unless it's too expensive. So a lot of these things don't really apply to land use issues.
Right. So I was going to show you, there's also a tab called jurisdictional. Can you see that? I've just pulled it up.
Yes.
Okay, so one of them is building permit information, and you can click on view. So I'm clicking on the word view, and it's pulling up Building and Safety's website. And so again, you can always log into ladbs.org,
Yep.
but you can get to it through ZMIS as well. And here you have permit information, and there's going to be a lot of permit information on this one because we know they're doing a huge amount of work. So, but this is one way to get to it. Should I digress to show you how to get historical building permits?
I think that's a little, so a lot of this, what this shows is all the permit activity on a parcel. So
for the last 10, 11 years only.
So it's very useful when you're just trying to see where things are at. I use it all the time to see where my permit statuses are, or when I'm doing neighborhood stuff to see what's been permitted and what hasn't.
Right.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Right. So it does though not go back.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it goes back pretty good. 2001.
Yeah, he got tall.
I'm hearing somebody talking.
Yeah.
So why I was saying, so John, when I say the word historical permits, it's some of them are historical. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I cannot. So I'm just going to switch. But this is just, if you want to get the full permit and not just the what's here, if you go to ladbs.org, which is, I know, not on our agenda, but you go to, is the building and safety website up on your guys' screen?
Yes.
Okay, pull down on services menu. You see, has that happened?
Yes.
Where we were, if you see my cursor, we were at permit and inspection report. That was, or property activity report. That's what you got to from ZMIS. The next line down says search online building records. When you click on that, you then click here. You click on it a second time and you put in the address. So this address was 2011 West 24th Street. So I'm going to try that. And you just put 2011 24th. You don't do east or west. And let's see if anything comes up for that. And there you have a 1944 permit. But obviously there had to have been a whole lot of permits on this property, some of which were recent. So if you want to really do research here, we're not going to do that tonight, but you can do it by address, by the assessor number. And the other thing you can do is the document number. But here they've got already have a scanned image. I clicked on that. And it brings up the building permit, which you may see now. And this isn't necessarily an interesting building permit, but it's a building permit. So, all right. John, what else do you want to do on ZMIS? I'm going back to
that's
ZMIS.
all the things that I use.
Sure.
And it's just, I mean, as you get, it's also, folks, this has just gotten so much more well integrated. I mean, just that everything is connected and self-referencing. It's just really, it's gotten a lot easier. You know, and Navigate LA is another good thing, but that's probably more for my trades. But yeah, it's just all here, and you just have to know what you're looking for and see where it leads you. The most complex thing is the case numbers. That's the darkest hole here, because you have to read and search and read and search.
Right. Right. So if on this one, actually, I'm going to go back to the planning and zoning. This is in a CPIO. So I pulled up the planning and zoning tab again, and it says C2-1-0. That 0 is not a 0. It's actually a letter O for oil district. And then CPIO. I'm not going to click on it there. I'm going to see if I'm not mistaken. General plan land use, it says neighborhood commercial. I think when I, nope, wrong. When I click, sorry, too late, I already clicked on it. But what I'm trying to bring up is the actual CPIO document. And I think this is not going to work. So I'm going to close that tab and go to this. So it's CPIO, Community Plan Implementation Overlay, Sub-Area, General, Commercial, and hopefully something will come up. Maybe yes, maybe no, because I'm seeing the phrase about blank. So I'm not sure that this is going to work. But in the theoretical world, this did work, and you would also see what the overlay sub-area requirements are. But in this case, we're not going to see that. So, all right, John, what other tools do you use? I always use these.
Yeah, I also mix in Google. So if I want to look up the CPIO, I don't do the click here. I just go to the Google and go South LA CPIO, and I get it there, and I have all my tabs all connected. So, so that's, I think there are sometimes the tabs here just throw you into a dark hole, and it's better just go into Google when you have a
Right.
sense of where to go.
Yeah, like what I'm seeing up there is problem, exclamation point. So we're not going to get to there. Okay, so have we lost everybody? I can't see who's here and who's not here, as you know, because I'm looking at the shared screen.
No, we still have a crowd.
Okay, so
I wanted to say before I left, thank you very much for putting this on the agenda, particularly the thing about the biweekly case filings map and the resources. That was great.
Yeah, spread the news.
I'm wandering around Zima, so that wasn't hugely new to me, but this was really, really important, I think, for people. And again, I'm sorry there's not 60 people in this meeting.
And I think what we do is just tell as many people as possible that it's there, and let everyone just keep going.
Right. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night, Audrey. So John, should I stop sharing this screen? What do you think?
Yeah.
Unless anybody has raised their hand, I can't see who has questions.
Nope.
I was gonna say I found out that they built my garage. I kind of knew when they built it, but I forgot how much they built it for. But they built mine in 1914 for $1,000.
Wow, that's a lot of money for a garage, Carlos. Oh, you have but then again, you have that mansion with that wonderful garage. Now that I think about it.
I'm not listening to Laura.
No, you have that. Isn't it a really great kind of character
I do.
garage?
I love it. Yeah, it is. It's nice.
Yeah, because that's a lot of money to build a garage. They were usually a couple hundred.
Wow.
So, what time? I can't see any clocks. Time
It is 12 minutes after 8. See, I'm just curious, John, what's your address? Because now I am curious.
2166.
Right. About the flood zone, 30th, right?
Yep.
To see yes or no if I'm right. I mean, because the flood zone we see in environmental reports on real estate deals.
I think I'm not in a flood zone that I recall. If I am in a flood zone, I'm 100% not worried about it.
Yeah. So I think what's happening on my computer here is I've got too many windows open, so I'm going to start closing some of this.
You could also turn off your video. That might help too.
Yeah, it could, because because it's certainly not. Actually, I can't turn off my video right now. I'd have to stop sharing the screen. So this is what I'm going to do. I'll stop sharing the screen. Then I will research your house, and I will bring it back up if you are in a flood zone. How's that? That won't be fun. Anyway, okay. So I know we also have another item on the agenda. So I'm going to see if being off the thing works or not. Well, John, we will do this offline because it's not going anywhere. So the other item on the agenda is an update on the housing element. And so John, did you do the new webinar?
I didn't.
You wouldn't have learned anything.
Yeah.
Well, you would have learned some things maybe. So, so basically, I'm just going to give a quick update. The housing element is a state law that requires, as I put on the agenda, that cities update each of their own citywide housing elements every 8 years. And so the city planning and the city housing departments are working on currently must be adopted by the LA City Council no later than October of next year. And unless the governor pushes that date out, which, he might because of the COVID pandemic. But I served on a housing element task force in the year 2008. And John, you served on one in the year 2013.
12, I think.
12. And I don't know who's serving on the current one, but some of the ideas that are being put in it now relate to sustainability, resilience, displacement, housing protection. So there's gentrification, although they haven't used that word, wanting to eliminate, any racism caused by housing policies. There's getting to be some pushback on the west side because the department is trying to add a whole lot of zoning capacity in areas that are quote high resource areas, because they feel that that's where affordable housing, it's not fair to only build affordable housing in lower resource areas, or in other words, our area. And so they said their equity will be a core part of future land use decisions. So that, that seems to be the theme. And as I had put in the agenda, because I copied and pasted this from the website, is identify solutions to further racial justice, dismantle structural inequalities, and just to create more equitable and affordable housing opportunities for all. So I'm reading out loud, but it was interesting going to this, because the presentation was really, 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 really about are we all still here?
Yep.
Okay, because now I'm only seeing me, and yet I'm seeing John's on video, but I'm not seeing John. So did we?
I'm here.
Okay. Anyway, the presentation was 95% about rental housing, and the only 5% about ownership housing was as a result of a question. But there's also a slide in the advanced material that shows almost 40% of LA's housing is ownership housing. So my personal concern is that if you're doing a housing element, one of the things you do need to address is the reality of what you have, which is 40% of your housing is owner occupied. And again, John, you were on the last time. So was there much discussion 8 years ago about ownership housing, or is it all about building rental housing?
I can't even remember. It was so long ago, and I can't remember.
Okay. So the other big deal for this year is there's a major change in state law. So when I served on the task force, the stated goal, meaning the city of LA was given a number, and they needed to plan in the housing element how to develop the capacity citywide to construct a certain number of units. So that number in the year 2008 was 113,000.
It's called a RENA number.
Now it is. It wasn't then. The number was 113,000. John, for your year, the number was 82,000. So they had dropped it. They had dropped it. And the reason they dropped it at that time was because in 2008, they were dealing with estimated population growth based on the year 2000 census and the historical rate of population growth in LA City and LA County. When it came time to actually do, they did a 2010 census and they had the results by 2012, and it turned out that those projections were way off. Countywide, they were off by 3 million people. And for the city, it was 1 million people. So that's why they lowered the allotment for 2012. Anyway, state law has changed, and our new allotment is 455,000. So it's 5 times higher. Is that 82 times 5? It's 5 times higher. So what they're working on is how to show capacity in the housing element for 455,000 more units. they would need to permit 57,000 units a year, and of those, 33,000 would need to be affordable. We're not permitting anything close to 33,000 affordable units a year. Is that, John, not even close?
I'm not sure, but I don't think it's far off, but it's probably in the 20s, 10s or 20s. I'm not sure though.
I don't know. I don't know. And let's see. So the only thing, I mean, in terms of home ownership, they are trying, they said they recognize that the ability to purchase your own home is also a methodology to create wealth. And that's true in all communities, not just wealthy communities. And they're looking to see how to approve things that are already happening, such as TICs, which tenant in common, where you purchase a tenant in common. It's a more affordable way to help people enter home ownership. So, but they didn't really talk about that. And they didn't talk much about some of the objectives that had been in the housing element. So I don't know if this is going to stay or go, but in areas like the UNNC neighborhoods, the prior objective 2.4 is promote livable neighborhoods with a mix of housing types, quality design, and a scale and character that respects unique residential neighborhoods in the city. So, this would be the category of planning for neighborhood character, some neighborhood preservation, preserve stable multifamily residential neighborhoods that provide older and therefore relatively affordable but high quality housing stock. I'm reading out loud from the housing element that John worked on. So they haven't written this one. So I didn't get an answer, but I'll email the same question. I asked the question, is this kind of, are these kind of paragraphs going to stay in this new housing element, or is it just really condemned to have to go if we need to supply, nearly 460,000 units, some show capacity for that. One other idea, they're trying to do housing protection. And one idea that they showed on the slide is to eliminate annual rent increases, automatic rent increases for RSO units, and tie it only to cost of living increases. But the question was, well, how do you keep landlords in business? If you do that, are you also going to limit LADWP, water rates and sewer rate increases, tie it all together, because it doesn't seem to have parity. And that's not my question. That was a question. And these are the notes I took. I did post the entire presentation in our online advanced agenda packet. So if anybody's really interested in this, you can download it from our packet. And I provided a link on the agenda to the first webinar on this housing element, the one that's previous, and it's a YouTube presentation. And I suspect that this one will also end up being a YouTube presentation. So again, if you go back to our agenda, you will see the link to the housing element. You will see that YouTube thing, and you can find, sign up to be informed. The planning department's planning to release a draft of the whole document in this winter, and then take it to a hearing, I think at the Planning Commission in the late spring. So it can go to City Council no later than early October. All right, boring, but very, very, very important. John, you look equally bored, and yet this is your field.
The housing element is it's wonky.
It's very wonky. It is indeed, but it's important they're really trying to this time make it about fair share. It's also not mandated. In that sense, I mean, they can show all kinds of things for Brentwood or Woodland Hills or whatever, but it doesn't force any developer to buy any piece of land and actually implement any piece of it.
That's correct.
So
We still live in America. There's still property rights.
yes, yes. So all right. So I don't know. I don't think I need to share the presentation itself, because I think if anybody's really interested, we'll be able to go on to their website and do the YouTube, see it later. And what I can do at some point is send out an e-blast that has the link, once the link is available. Any hands? Any comments?
I kind of have a comment, I guess.
Okay.
The TOC radius was made to include near transit, was made to be a large circle, which includes residential areas, unfortunately. I wonder if the TOC ordinance could be changed to only be on commercial corridors, or at least in a commercial zone instead of a residential zone.
Well, yeah, they're doing that in Boyle Heights. The Boyle Heights plan is doing something.
They're doing it all over. They did it, and they're doing it in Hollywood. They're using CPIOs to be an alternative to TOCs to do exactly that, Steve. And that is especially when single family looking areas that are actually zoned R3, those are the ones that are most affected, because TOC doesn't affect R1s that much, even if they're in the circle, because they're only 5 units and above. But it's all the neighborhoods that look like they're R1s, but they're actually R3s that get the most affected, like Laura's neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like my neighborhood. And we're RDs mostly. Well, we have R3s as well. Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right, Steve. That has been recognized as a problem, and they're trying to channel, make it more attractive to develop on the C corridors for exactly that reason. Because the circles, obviously, they're just geometry, steamrolling over anything that's in their way.
And what upsets me is that it's just the financials as well. From a developer standpoint, it's cheaper to go into a residential area and buy a freshly restored 3,500 square foot Craftsman and tear it down than it is to buy the shittiest commercial property along a commercial corridor. And it's just the financials. And of course, they're going to come into the residential corridors and just tear everything down because it's a fraction of the price. And so it's very upsetting from a community standpoint.
Yeah.
And from a developer standpoint, it just doesn't make any sense to buy along commercial corridors.
Yeah.
Well, keeping in mind the cost of construction does not alter between the two. So it's just the land acquisition.
Exactly.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And so what they're trying to do, I guess, in Boyle Heights is disincentivize it. And I have asked the question, I think here, though, not of the city people yet, is there any opportunity for our South LA or our West Adams, Baldwin Hills, Leimert community plans that were just completed and are not due for any new revisions for another 20 years, probably? Is there any opportunity for us to get that benefit, to go back in and somehow make the TOC straight lines instead of circles? I mean, it's kind of that simple.
It would be a challenge, because property's been bought and sold based on the circle maps. And I think what they're trying to do is use the tastier incentives along the C zones and making it more difficult elsewhere. But we'll see how that goes. It is a voter mandated, so it's hard to pass anything, and it have to come down to the discretion of the planning department.
Right.
And
So yeah, but it also seems we're back to the parity issue. If they're letting other neighborhoods have the protections, why not us? Because we were just first. I mean, in other words, I'm not whining. I'm trying to figure out if there is a path forward. But it would in part be our new council member.
And also, Laura, there was the issue with the neighborhood councils that were, all neighborhood council or a few, were trying to say that if there's a new development that has basically no parking, then that's fine, but that the developer, that people who live in that building could not get parking, overnight parking permits. And is that, I think that that's not going to be legal.
Well,
That's
yeah.
That's what they're doing is when they do that, they're making two tiers of citizens, which is, on paper unfair, saying these citizens can park on city property and these other ones cannot. And that's
In the middle of the night. Yes.
But the developer is the one who said that we have special citizens in this building who don't need to have parking spaces.
So when it comes down to citizens, you're talking about people or developers. And if I'm a person and I'm paying my taxes and I live there and I'm a resident, and you're telling me that just because you've lived here for 10 years, that you deserve a parking spot on the street and I don't?
No, it's just that you don't, if you are knowingly renting, it's just like in our street, there's fourplexes that just have no off-street parking, and that's just it. And so to rent that unit, going in, you have no parking unless you're parking on the street. And here it's like you not only have one space or a half a space or whatnot, but no going in, that the neighborhood has restricted overnight parking. And you cannot get a parking permit if you live in this building. So know that before you rent, it's disclosed. And if you say, hey, I don't have a car, I don't plan to get a car, then this is perfect for you. And if you do have a car, you might want to look somewhere else. So it's renter beware going in.
Right. Well, Steve, the truth is, for a TOC project on the commercial corridors, for example, a big building with limited parking, it's really easy. Well, it's not easy to get an overnight parking district in place, but once there's the bandwidth for getting it in place, it's easy to exclude that commercial frontage. So for example, in the avenues, not that it's commercial, the people who live on Adams Boulevard are not in the overnight parking district, so their addresses are not eligible.
Interesting.
But not because it was commercial or limited parking, just because people were mean, I guess. No, but it's also very difficult for renters in general to get these overnight parking permits. We're digressing, but we have a renter, and she went in just last week because they're also still requiring in-person visits in the middle of this pandemic. She went in with her car registration at the correct address. She went in with the lease with her name on it and her name on the car registration. And they said the car registration for a parking pass didn't count. And it's like, what? So, because she's a renter in a house. So, so it's not easy at all. It's easy for homeowners because homeowners can provide a utility bill. They can provide a, what am I trying to say? Their ownership, their proof of ownership, their property tax bill. That's okay. So these overnight parking districts, John, do discriminate a little bit already and make it easier for homeowners to get the permits than for renters in general. But I do think if a building is plopped in the middle of a residential block, it would be hard to exclude it from the district, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, so anyhow, those are my two big issues with, this neighborhood council has been very amenable to new development and adding new units within our area. We're very agreeable to that. We just, two things, in my view, want to keep them the hell off huge developments off of the residential corridors, especially if it's going to tear down a historical building. And two, it's just adequate parking, because that's another thing that will just really impact negatively a community. Right. So those two things, just trying to figure out interesting ways so we don't have those issues.
And then John, I know you have a different point of view on what is proper to require of parking in affordable housing, but do you have that, what do you think about just regular market rate? Is same idea?
My feeling in general is that the number of parking stalls on those spots on the street are finite and they're public property and no one has a legal right to use them.
True.
And you get it. And if there's tools to make you move around or not use it, whatever. So there's only finite. It's not like if there's 1,000 units around you that the parking is going to be any worse than if there's 100 units around you. The parking will stop. And what that will do is will change behaviors that people won't have cars, and it will just spur better development. And we don't develop our city to accommodate cars. Because if you look around us, our city has been developed between street widening and parking garages and underground and costly housing and construction costs and zoning, and everything else that we live with is built around cars, and it's just self-perpetuating. And I mean, that's where I just say, get rid of the fucking cars.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, I can't edit
I would like
these
to put my 2
recordings.
cents in. Yeah. My 2 cents is this, right? I have it's a complex issue, right? But I gotta be honest with you. I'm right on the corner there. I can't count the amount of times that even with permitted parking, we've had people drive up, drinking, defecating, urinating, all in my yard, all against the side. So I have a different perspective on it because I'm a victim of it every single night, 7 days a week. And I think part of that was to help curb that type of activity. But, to your point, John, right? Let's get rid of the cars. And maybe if somebody's walking down the street with a case of beer and a fifth of whatever, they're not apt to just pull up to my house, which happens every single night. Drinking.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. Like I said, that's kind of a pet peeve to me. So there's folks that get these, and I don't know where they get the permits from, but they get them, right? And that's fine. You can go and park there. But there's a every night, every single night, I have a running gambit with people that all they do is they pull up right next to my house, not in front of St. Paul's, at that permit parking, and they drink and they leave their bottles. Me and my family, we pulled up. I've had guys pull out the private in front of my kids and my wife because they know, hey, parking's hard and I need a place to hang out. And why not hang out right here in West Avenue, right here on the corner next to this cool house? So I just wanted to put that 2 cents there. And everyone that's looking for parking is not looking to just park. And that piece was one of those ideas to say, how do we curb this type of activity from the neighborhood? If you just kind of come in here and you live in 13 blocks away because it's parking crazy, but when you come here, it's not a bar either. So I just wanted to kind of say that.
Right. So that was one of the motivations behind the Avenues getting its overnight parking district. But what Steve was talking about is there's a lot of talk, mostly from West Side neighborhood councils now, that there should be parking districts that are generated when these new buildings are put in place without parking, and the buildings be excluded from the parking district.
Right.
But I just don't think there's yet been any traction on that. So Steve, I think when we circle this back to the housing element, what I would wonder is, then they haven't drafted it yet, but I wonder if the housing element in the section on livable neighborhoods, on the assumption they're going to promote livable neighborhoods with a mix of housing types, quality designs, and a scale and character that respects unique residential neighborhoods, assuming they're going to keep that, might we not suggest what it means to be livable, and without saying it's a bad idea to have projects without much parking. But it does feel like it's a bad idea to have projects without much parking that are designed to be more congregate or co-housing. And so it's really a lot of people with no parking. And anyway, I don't know. It's a difficult topic because it's also true that we can build more housing if we don't have to build more parking spaces.
My feeling is the market will take care of that. If I moved into an apartment building without a parking stall, like if I moved into the center of West Hollywood, it's a death sentence to move into West Hollywood if you don't have a parking stall to move your car around, and so no one does it. So it's self-correcting. Unless you say, well, I'm a developer, I'm going to build a parking garage and sell those parking stalls. That's the market self-correcting. And so I think trying to accommodate or block just scrambles it and just gets it to be too complex. And I think it just, like I said, it's not going to get worse, the parking situation. There's no parking on my street. I don't care about that. It's sometimes annoying, but I don't care about it. But it's not getting worse. It can't get worse because there's no parking. It's done.
Right. It's just
parking
gone.
is done. And so if you put 1 million units down the street from me, it's not going to make the parking worse on 30th Street.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that with new developments, if new developments have no parking, which is fantastic, they have no parking, but then the new tenants don't have an opportunity, or they have a very limited opportunity to park a car if they have a car, then that would at least freeze the amount of vehicles potentially in a particular area. And then the people who live in that area, hopefully they begin to get rid of their cars as well, because as we become more transit friendly, hopefully we will be, then at the very least, I think the goal is to get, like you said, get rid of the cars, get them off the street. And I have no problem with these new developments basically providing zero parking, but in neighborhoods that still have some parking available, and people can always, if you get out of work at say 3:30, then you're going to beat the guy who gets out of work at 5 o'clock. And if you live in the apartment building and they live on the residential street, then, you get that benefit. But if the new developments are basically have limited to no parking, and the tenants are not allowed to basically park in the residential corridors, then it would seem to me that the new tenants would not rent the space if they had a vehicle. So we're kind of saying the same thing, only not quite. And again, I don't have a problem with the new developments having zero parking. I would like to reduce the amount of cars as well. And if it's making it painful for new people who live in new developments to have cars, the amount of vehicles in that particular community, they're generally not going to increase because the houses are still the houses unless they start building ADUs. So I don't know.
It's all interesting. Well, this is, again, my suggestion is we wait to see the draft and see how it addresses the definition of livable neighborhoods, or if it even does. Because if that chapter gets removed, or that objective gets removed, we'll need to have a discussion at UNNC about putting it back, I think, because we're representing our community. And I also feel that they can state a lot of objectives about the fair distribution of affordable housing all over town, but the reality is they can't force it. So I'm going to sum this up by saying there's the same webinar will be offered it's not on the agenda, but it was in the e-blast they've changed the date to a December date in Spanish. And this English webinar will be on the Planning Department's YouTube channel at some point, and I'll send out a blast about that. And the actual draft document won't be written for a couple of months, but they are soliciting ideas now. So I'll pull together some sort of e-blast that goes to our entire UNNC stakeholder group. Is 1,300 or whatever number of people are signed up. and I'll make it sound more interesting perhaps than this meeting sounded, because it would have been good to have more people, and send it out. Okay. Anybody else? Because no. Are there any? The next and last agenda item is up. What is it? Sorry. Language is follow up to previous cases, ENS and old business discussion and possible action. The only follow up I have is on the 1537 South Wilton Place case. That is now scheduled to go to the City Council's Planning and Land Use Committee on January 21st. So we have a new council member. I'm not quite sure how this is going to proceed, because our current council office is supportive of the appeal, but I don't know what's going to happen going forward. So we will see. And that's my only update. John, do you have any?
We have an open seat on Jefferson Park HPOZ board, and the current CD10 regime is refusing to fill it.
Oh, no.
So we know what that means. The vacant seat's going to be there for 6 months, a year, 18 months. So we are writing we encourage everyone to write their opinion to the current regime and just say, because there's apparently 3 or 4 applicants just waiting there to be appointed. So we're writing letters to CD10 current regime to say, just fill the damn seat. And
well, because isn't it true that whoever is responsible for the appointment, which would be the next regime, comes in, can remove the person and appoint their own person anyway if they don't like the person? I mean, that's what the ordinance says.
They don't know anything.
I know that, I agree, but my point is, what's the harm in appointing someone? Because
I don't know. That's why we encourage people just to say, wave the wand, get it filled, relief, fill our seat, and get us at a full board.
Okay, so John, will you do me a favor? Let's put this on our agenda so UNNC can make the same request. Not a request about a person, but that the appointment happen. Although they're only there till December 13th. Yeah. They're done at December 13th, so it's a little late. I need to talk to whoever is the transition person for Mark Ridley Thomas, if there is a transition person, because there's so many things we need to talk about, starting with our storage in the council office, but including the next scheduled walkthrough of the oil drilling landscape on the 27th Street. That needs to happen in the next couple of weeks and not wait. But it does, in this case, seem silly to bring out the current regime for a week before they're out of office. So I'm trying to bring it. Yeah. All right. So that's an update too. We're about to do another the annual walkthrough. And that's all I have. These are not unimportant things.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Are we done? Okay, we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm always last to leave, so I don't cut you off of the meetings. Oop, somebody walked in and then back out of your door, John. I'm ending the meeting now.